Contenders, ready! Gladiators, ready! 3, 2, 1, the Gladiators!
Hello and welcome to another instalment of the GladPod in association with Gladiators TV. I'm David Blackmore, and as always, joining me on this gladiatorial journey of discovery is none other than Jubilant Jet.
Oh, thank you. I will buy Jubilant from you today as well, definitely.
I have to say, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to get through all the J's, I think. I don't know how long I'll be able to keep it up.
You've been doing really well so far. Don't worry about it. But we're turning our attention now to a gladiator that never actually was. Now, I didn't even know this story because I'd left by that.
I know. When I heard about Shark, I was like, hang on a minute. He wasn't a gladiator. But I was really surprised, actually, when we had our first introductory chats with him, like over Instagram and stuff. And, you know, for him, he very much saw himself as a gladiator because he essentially got all the way, without giving away too much, because we've got the chat coming in now, but he essentially gets all the way there, right to it. He jumps through all the hoops that is put before him. And then he gets the sorry, you've not quite made the cut, and it's quite a tale. But also how you'll hear how he just kind of smooths over the exit. You know, you could clearly see how crushing it was, and you could probably hear how pressing I am of him to try and open him up a bit more. But he has quite an outlook on life that it's kind of, things happen for a reason. I moved on, and he's gone on with his life, and he went on to do some pretty incredible things like flying helicopters and stuff, but he'll tell you all about that. But just before actually we get into the Shark episode, shall we delve back into our mailbag?
Come on then.
So Stuart Sells says hopefully we will hear from Wolf in the near future. Hunter's podcast was epic low. He was full of chat, stories, and sounds like he's had a good life and amazing experiences. Another cool character. Again, as always, Wolf, we are still trying. We're still on the hunt. He knows we are interested. He wants to take part in it. We just need to sort out the technicalities of doing it, because we were hoping that he may be coming over to the UK to do a Comic-Con event. So it's not going to be happening this year. So we're hoping that we can facilitate it so that we can speak to him, via phone or via computers.
Yeah. The only thing is that Wolf, bless him, he is on the other side of the planet. So we just got the small consideration of, are they going to be awake when we need to speak to him? And I hope his daughter wants to join in too. And Paula, actually, his good lady, because they met during the Gladiator time. So they have a Gladiator baby. Paula wasn't big enough to become one of our glads, but she was a really lovely presence backstage for all of us girls and boys to chat away to. Very, very pretty girl and jolly. So yeah, we'll definitely get our hands on Wolf. So watch this space, everybody.
Yeah, again, you keep every episode that goes by, you keep bringing out these little kind of stories and anecdotes, which I think makes it so great for all the listeners, and it does for me. Sometimes I don't know how to react to these stories. I'm like, this is brand new information. How did I not know this? But anyway, Ben Langlands, again referring to the Hunter episode. Hunter was the most awesome male gladiator, but my favourite was Warrior.
Oh,
and it seems to be that I think Hunter, everyone was like, he's so incredible. He doesn't need my support because he's so great. I can just leave it be. I'm going to choose like another one of the other good gladiators to show my support to, almost like not necessarily supporting an underdog, but not going for the best. I guess it's like sometimes when people pick their football teams, they don't go for the best. They go for the second best or maybe the third best, just so that they're not seen as a glory hunter.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's something about human nature, isn't it, that we kind of want to single out somebody who isn't the obvious kind of all-round brilliant best one. It's like, actually, that person deserves a little bit more of the profile and the platform and the glamour and the favoritism. And I think that's what I've always loved about Glads. It's not only having been one, but there was literally a gladiator for everybody. Everybody had their own preferences for whatever big, small or indifferent reason. There was just be something that would resonate with everybody at home, with each of these gladiators, and of course the contenders.
Yeah, and Cliff Dickinson says he just wants to say, well done on your podcast, Jet. Well, it's Jet and David.
Jet and David.
Outrageous, Cliff. I hope you get to talk to some Aussie gladiators too,
Ooh,
perhaps even
yeah.
Vulcan, which would be good.
Yeah. Oh, I loved, when we went out for our first Ashes to Sydney and Brisbane, I think it was year 4 that we actually started doing the international gladiators, and the Aussies were the first guys to invite us to their country. Oh, what a treat, and what a great group of athletes. They were so hospitable, so candid. Their arena wasn't as big as ours, but they were just lovely to spend a couple of weeks filming with. One of my happiest memories, I must admit, and going out in Sydney, and they took us to nice restaurants, which was always important for a gladiator because we always needed to eat a lot. And I think I dropped my first motorbike out there as well, a beautiful Harley Davidson, which was one of the prizes on the show. And they say if you drop the bike, you got to buy it. I'm like, oh great. I did go on to have lots of motorbikes in the end. I was very lucky because my ex-husband was a motorcyclist, but I've always loved bikes. And yeah, I dropped a Harley, and I think there's a tiny bit of damage, but of course I wasn't going to buy it in Australia and bring it all the way back. But they were brilliant. We loved working with them.
Now, Di, cast your mind back to the Hunter chat. We had quite a few Hunter correspondents. So clearly, it may be a few people have been catching up on some of the podcasts, or particularly, maybe it was the Hunter one has kept on people's minds. Now, Rebecca Ellis says, and this is a response to a comment that Hunter made about what may or may not have been on show, and how some gladiators may have wanted to sort of enhance what was there to showcase themselves in a larger light. Rebecca says it's really not hard to check out gentlemen's vegetables when they're wearing skin-tight leotards and shorts. It's a bit like when they used to show reruns of the men's 100 metres from the front in slow motion.
Rebecca! It's true.
It's absolutely mesmerising. It is, she's right. However, Rebecca says she is a lover of arms, shoulders, chests and wide backs, so her eyes always tended to rest there, mostly.
I got no comment. There was a rumour, yes, at the time that some of the boys were putting extra things into jockstraps but, they had to be protected, and maybe it was just part of that process. But there was a rumour.
Well, Hunter confirmed it, so I'm not. You don't even have to comment on the rumours. Hunter confirmed it. He was in the same locker room as him, so it's fine. And just onto a few letters that we've had coming in. Ben Simmons, I've just started listening to the GladPod, and I think it's great. This is what's been missing from my life as an avid fan in the 1990s. I love anything Gladiators related. I remember as a child going to one of the live shows at Wembley Arena, as well as meeting Diane along with Shadow at a meet and greet. Oh, here we go. At Butlins. I wonder where that was going. I think I even remember getting a signed photo from both, but unfortunately, I've lost the photos many years ago. Diane, please could I cheekily ask for a signed photo to replace the one I lost? It would make my day. Ben, I'm sure we can make that happen. You need to dig out some of your photos again, Di.
I do. I know a lot of the guys, when they've been coming in for our interviews, have been bringing folders of lots of pics because they've been going through the attic or sorting through, stuff, because people are doing that, aren't they? We get to spring and summer, it's like, I'm going to do a bit of a clear out. I have loads, I really do. I wouldn't know where to start, but by the time we next get together, and I will bring a folder, and hopefully the wonderful producer Paul Noddings will upload some of these previously non-seen photos if anybody's interested. I do have quite a few. I've got to kind of personally be in the mood to really have a good look through them, because I don't know, I get a little bit oh no, I can't look at that, did I look like that? Oh no, she looks great, oh look at him, wow. And suddenly my memories are really quite good with a lot of it, as you can hear. Sometimes a little anecdote will come back that I'd previously not even thought about. It just pops up out of the subconscious mind, because that's where we store a lot of our information. And it's been nothing other than an utter pleasure to meet up with everybody again and start sharing some of these great memories. Really good fun. So I'm glad you're all really beginning to enjoy our GladPods.
And the final letter we've got is from Caitlin Hankey. Now, she says that the podcast has come exactly the right time because she's actually started to watch the original Gladiators because, as I've said before, that there's quite a few of them that are on YouTube. Now, the reason why she's kind of got back into it is because when she was younger, so primary school age, she went to school with Lightning's kids.
Ooh, yes.
A lot of the teachers made a fuss about it, and I didn't understand why, because she wasn't alive when the Gladiators first aired. So I asked my mum after school, and she explained the concept of Gladiators. She even told me she was going to be a contender on the show. Caitlin, this is just ramped up a bit. She'd done all the training and had passed to go on, but then couldn't because she fell pregnant with me. What another curveball there.
That's a great story.
I know, it doesn't stop there. This story didn't mean a lot to me at the time, just explained the concept of Gladiators, but she's been training at home a lot recently and her mum has been helping her train, and she brought out these old photos, the ones she sent with her Gladiators application. Anyway, fast forward and we watched some of the original episodes of Gladiators. She'd never seen the show before, just kind of short clips of the Sky One revival. If she's been shown the originals, having just seen Sky One, she was in for a treat.
Right, yes.
And she absolutely loves the show. Jet is so cool. She did this side aerial into a leg hold, then played it like a guitar. Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that was up on the Hang Tough platform. It was not a very big platform, and you've got hand guards on because you're literally going to go and swing around on the rings for a minute or two, and you needed to have these really sort of big men's hand guards just to make the rings easier to hold. Otherwise you just come straight off. They just cut straight through your hands because they were metal. There's always that little bit where you've got to do like an ident and you'll be facing Jet, and you literally get about 2 or 3 seconds where you've got to do something. Of course you've got your soft helmet on, hand guarded hands, so you can't actually do anything like a flick flack or anything that would be weight bearing on the hands. So that's where I just made up the aerial leg and the aerial cartwheel, which I think Kim and I think Vogue did as well a few times, because you couldn't really do anything flicky flacky because your hands were already tied up in your hand guards, you see, and we didn't have the time to reshoot or have time to put them on and off, rather. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, there you go, Kenny. There's a bit more info on that. And Kenny goes on to say that she thought it was going to be like Ninja Warrior, which is something that I know that I've spoken about a bit. But actually, the Gladiators concept is so cool, and she's not stopped talking about it. Oh. So much so that she's come up with her own revival concept, and she's put in brackets, hear me out. Okay, I'll hear you out. Caitlin. So she wants to bring back the show with all the same challenges. They have the original Gladiators as well as new Gladiators. Yeah. And the original Gladiators would mentor the new Gladiators as they take on the contenders. So like one original Gladiator would mentor one new Gladiator.
I think that's a great idea, Caitlin. I really, really do. I mean, I know at ITV they're always looking for great new formats of shows. I guess the only thing that would have to be massively modified, and we've spoken about it a few times on the GladPod here, is that it was quite a dangerous show to do, whereby there were a lot of injuries that would involve knees, ankles, or even spine. So quite serious joint injuries, and you don't get over them overnight, of course. They can take quite a few weeks and months to repair. So I think some of the high falls, the Sky Glads came and they then made you fall into a swimming pool rather than rolling down crash mats, because that's usually when you're exposed to the biggest injury risk. So they'd have to think it through. But I think that having the old team with the newbies and mentoring them and having the event still look amazing but not be neck-breakingly dangerous, which I know would be a priority with ITV. And I do know, I think last time I was there, even at ITV with yourself, David, there was a little bit of somebody alluding to the possibility in the next few years there may be something. This will be 30 in, was it 2 years' time now? So, yeah.
And Caitlin ends her letter a bit like Matthew's the other week, quite an epic letter. But her real dream is that she wants to be one of these new gladiators.
Yes.
She hasn't decided on her gladiator name yet. But and Caitlin, as we said before on this podcast, it's not always your choice. Sometimes it's a name given to you, awarded to you. But she would lean towards Mountain.
Wow. Okay.
To be a mountain, though, I think you'd have to be very tall.
You'd have to be a mountainous person.
Yeah.
And why not? I think that's what was always quite exciting about particularly the male gladiators. They were always very much larger than life. And there was real kind of like, there was something quite dramatic about that. But being larger or mountainous as a gladiator means that you've got to work so much more on your strength and speed and agility, because usually the larger, not always, but power to weight ratio on a larger person, particularly for some of the articulate events where speed and agility were key, you'd have to really work hard on that. But the bigger the body to pull around, I guess, or to move around at speed. Because I noticed actually with the Glad boys, as the years went by, and they all became more lean rather than, that old-fashioned, when rugby players used to be really big chunky things, and not always the healthiest power to weight ratio for doing, rugby matches. The boys all, again, leaned down, they got more acute, they got lighter, still big guys. We're talking all 6'2" plus. Most of the boys, they became better glads for doing that. So I still think that would follow suit now. Mountain, I think it's brilliant. I'd love to meet her.
And well, she's also got a proposition, is that if she does get it, she wants you to be her mentor.
Oh yes, Jet and the Mountain. Oh yes, I would love to. Absolutely love to. It'd be an absolute privilege. But she's going to have to be good at hang tough. She can't let me down.
So to everyone listening, if you were to be a gladiator, what would your gladiator name be? I want to hear some suggestions on that. So you can email us at thegladpod@gmail.com.
Or you can text to Insta or Twitter at @thegladpod. And yeah, we'll pick the messages up, and do keep the questions coming in. And that just leads me to ask you, David, we haven't had this discussion yet really about what you think your gladiator name would be.
Oh man, I didn't see that question coming, and now my brain is trying to think of a name. Do you know what? I'm gonna have to put a pin in that and come back to it, because I don't want to say something off the cuff now and regret it, because I think once you've committed to it, that's it. I can't believe you just done that to me. That would be the epitome for me to have come up with my gladiator name. I can't believe I don't have it. Producer Paul is going to be absolutely chomping at the bit at me, going, "How do you not know your gladiator name?"
Okay, we'll watch this space then. It'd be lovely to hear from any of you out there with your gladiator stories or any questions for myself and David and producer Paul and any of the other fantastic gladiators and our contenders as we go through more and more interviews here for the GladPod.
And from all of our correspondents, here is our interview with the gladiator that never was, even though he says technically he was. It is Shark. Enjoy.
3, 2, 1.
This week, our guest this is a mystery to me. Let me get this right. Metin Hussein. You're saying who? Well, of course, some people will know exactly who that is because you've got friends and family. Oh, we hope so. We're soon to find out. But to you Gladiator fans, let's meet Shark.
Shark?
Exactly.
There was a gladiator called Shark? And there was. And as much as I will dispute that, you'd got so far down the line that you didn't appear. In all purposes, Shark was real. Shark was a gladiator.
Well, yeah, I appeared in Mauritius in the slots. I was at the National Indoor Arena as well. So, yeah, I was there. And I had the name, and it was fun.
You went to Mauritius. I only went for a model shoot. Get me, Jet the model. No, we just did a sort of candid shoot with a couple of the other girls, which was lovely, Baywatch Girl or something like that. But I never got to Mauritius, so you one up on me.
Absolutely. So it's the untold story. This is.
Let's go back.
The gladiator who never was. Although Metin does dispute this with me, but so if we cast your minds back to 1997, it's Series 6. We've got all these high-profile losses. Fash had gone. and replaced by Jeremy Guscott. You've got the injuries. You know, there's this hunt for new blood, and this
Sounds so gladiatorial.
Yeah, absolutely. But was this where your journey started, or was it the year leading to it? Because you're friends with Rhino, aren't you? And you've been in the gym together.
Mark Smith, Rhino.
And I think you wanted to get in the action. You wanted to get a bit of the action, didn't you? So would you say, as you're working out, saying, "Can I be a gladiator?" Do you reckon?
Well, yeah, it kind of went like that. I mean, I was training with Mark Rhino 2 or 3 years before. I was training with Mark for many, many years, but Mark said, I'm going to send a picture in, I'm going to go for this. I said, yeah, you. And I knew immediately, he's such a beautiful soul and he looks the part, and I said, you're going to get that. And the spirituality, I think I felt it as well. So Mark was taken on first. Subsequently, a little while after, I thought maybe I should go for this. Maybe I should try. You know?
Well, because you've seen how great he'd been doing.
Well, I just always thought of myself as a bit of a fun guy, and I thought maybe I can join in and do those games. And I was really training hard at the time. Things were going really well with regard to my training. And I thought, this could be for me as well. Looked at the options and said, okay, I'm going to try. So a picture went in before.
What picture was it? It's like a pose shot, pose head and shoulders shot.
It was a photo shoot of one of the photo shoots I had done with Rhino just before Gladiators. So it was a photo shoot in a made up studio in the gym.
Okay. I think I've seen those. There's a couple of shots. I think I've seen them. Yeah. Paul, producer, has them, and I saw them earlier. Very nice, I must admit. I think if producers had seen, they'd have gone, "Oh, we've got to see this guy." Particularly once you put your dimensions. What height are you as well?
I'm 6'3", you know.
Yeah.
19 stone. I think that's whatever it is in kilos. But I was at the time, and so I sent the picture in. Gladiators.
And obviously, Mark had a word as well, did he?
He did,
because they must have got hundreds of applications. So to have a gladiator go, we should have a look at this fella.
Yeah, I think Mark. Well, Mark's got such a big heart. You know, I said, could you put in a word for me? Could you make sure they've got the picture? And Mark did say, yeah, I've given them the picture. I sent the picture in as well. So Mark said, I'll give them the picture. So I waited. Subsequently, was invited for a tryout. So I turned up the Royal Nautical School just across the road of the South Bank where the LWT building used to be. Did the tryout. So that was past the tryout and didn't hear anything for about a month. Called them up again, and the lovely Ken Warwick said to me, yeah, come in and see me. So I went in to see him, and he said, okay, he said, but I need you to change your hair. So he said, I want you to grow your hair.
That was the first rider.
He said, go away.
Because in those days we didn't do extensions, particularly not for even women, really.
Well, yeah.
For women alone guys.
A few things here as well, that the producers are sort of going through pictures first and then doing the tryouts. So suggesting as well that they're looking for two different things. First of all, you need to have the right look, and second of all, you need to be able to walk the walk.
Yeah.
What were the tryouts like?
Man, it was tough.
Yeah.
I completed it, but it was tough. As I said, I started and I finished, but you've done a tryout when you've done that tryout. I mean, the likes of the great John Anderson and Andy Norgate and those people that put, they're skilled, because it is a tough test. Exhaust the lungs in the first part of it, then you're up ropes and you're jumping backwards and forwards, and it was tough. It was tough, but especially when you're 19 stone.
Yeah.
Trying to.
And you felt like you'd passed. You'd done.
No, I did pass.
You get told there and there.
There were people who couldn't even get past the first or second of the events.
So you was just the fact you
have to finish it. You have to finish it. Well, I actually did my tryout when Ace did his tryout.
Okay, Warren Furman.
Yeah, yes. and he went just before me. And he waxed it. He just went through it like it was. I looked at him and said, "This guy, he's like superhuman." The way he went through it. So he was great, yeah. And I just followed suit.
And this is in 96 as well, leading up to this 6 series? Because I'm just trying to get the timeline with this, because then you have this chat with Kenny, and he says, "Grow your hair," and then it takes you a while. It's not instant, is it?
No, it was kind of strange for me, because I've got a stubbly beard and short hair, so the hair started to grow and my image started to change, and they kept calling me back, come back. So I'd arrive,
And what is it when you do get these callbacks? What is it? Just the catch up?
It was right. It was arrive at the LWT centre, go up the stairs. Kenny would be sitting at his desk with all the girls and guys round him, and I'd walk in and he'd say, "Good, coming along fine, off you go," and that was it. So then I'd turn around and go away, and it sort of happened every month or every 2 months. I just wanted to keep her, but they wanted to see that I was still in shape as well. So couldn't you're still in shape? You're still training, of course. Can you take off your top? Can I have a look at you? So take the top off, have a look. Okay, off you go again.
It sounds so weird today, though, doesn't it?
I mean, you'd probably video conference it, wouldn't it? Oh, I see what you mean from just the look and seeing if you're still in shape. Like, yeah, I just thought it was strange that you keep for months. You'll keep popping in and then go, yeah, your hair's coming along.
Yeah,
seen a few more.
The thing for me, it's kind of tough because if you're dieting for, say, a bodybuilding competition, or you want to get in shape and you want to lose body fat, it's usually 4 to 6 weeks. You diet hard, cut out fat, sugars, salts, and various things, and then you're sort of ready and you're in shape. But I had to keep this shape for a year and a half.
That's really hard.
So psychologically and emotionally, it was, keeping in the tip-top shape. It was tough, but, the goal at the end was great, so I kept on going.
And they adjusted training as well. It sounded like Mark helped you out with that, did he?
Well, no, by that time, Mark was gone. Mark was the superstar. He had gone off doing his thing, he didn't, he wasn't around, bless him. He was, in between, he was doing his hospitality and his other stuff. So I upped my game with my training and did more sort of athletic training, although I kept my muscle size. I did sort of boxing training and various endurance training and certain things. I actually went to a local centre and climbed walls and did some bits and pieces, so I was ready and this was because I hadn't been told I was taking on this time, so I was keeping all this condition, keeping in shape, ready for this time, and then I was told.
So when was that then? You were told? Can you remember?
Just before we went to Mauritius, about
a day before, probably.
Yeah.
A week before, I got a phone call.
So this is
96.
96,
yeah.
Okay.
And I got a phone call, and I forget who it was. No, it was a lovely lady called Ellie.
I'll talk. I've got a note about Ellie. I'll mention her later. She'll appear again.
Yeah, I think it was her. She called me and said, "Yeah, I'm going to meet. You need to be at the airport this time. I'm going to send you a letter. You're coming to Mauritius to film the slots. We're taking you on as sharp." And in the meantime, during the discussions with Ken Warwick and the other guys, they'd given me that name in the studio. So I knew I had some idea that something was serious was going on because the hair was growing.
So when you got that green light, you're coming to Mauritius, what went on for you?
Oh, well, it was kind of, it was all worthwhile. It's, the dreams come true, I'm going to be there and make it happen and be a part of this team. So it was
that dream and goal that you had and to keep yourself in shape for so long, finally getting the reward for it.
All going to pay off because now, it's like, it's like if you're going to get the main part in Greece, and you're going to be,
Kaniki.
Yeah,
Danny.
and then
I was always a Kaniki fan.
Actually, Kaniki is a more interesting part, though.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's another podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And so you're ready now. Now you 5-minute call, curtain up, out you go. So that's how I felt.
Brilliant.
And we've seen the pictures as well. You're out in Mauritius and you're with all the gladiators. You're with them. It's all about topping up your tan, your pictures, all doing your little all the little VTs that they would have played during the series. And I think it's a few eagle-eyed Glad fans. If you look back, you can see you're in the background. There's some bits that you're completely in the foreground. So yeah, you're very much part of it. And what was that experience like? Who did you get along with?
Well, I think I thought I got along with all of them. I thought they were all beautiful people. I mean, it was all fun. Everyone was lovely to me. I mean, it was all about how are you? What do you do? What else do you do in your life? And it was good. Yeah, it was good
What
fun.
else were you doing in your life at the time?
Training, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, but most
Eating
of my
training.
life, yeah, I was. Well, I'm a psychic medium, so in between, and
Were you that then?
I was born like that.
Of course.
My grandfather, my grandmother, and my mother. Sorry, my grandfather and my mother were both mediums. So they sort of passed that. So I wasn't doing professional mediumship. I was involved in some property and developing property and bits and pieces. So that was good. And then.
So take us back to arriving in Mauritius, and then everyone's there.
Yeah, it was lovely. We arrived. Went and got some food. I got on very well with Warren Ace, and he's a lovely guy. And Hunter was very nice to me. I remember him. He's a great guy. I remember him keep saying to me, maintain the muscle, maintain. So it was, because I was saying things to him like, I'm not going to lose muscle on. I'm not going to eat properly here, and that was, when I started to get the pain in my tummy. So I didn't it was a week before I arrived there.
Yeah, so take us, so a week before you arrive, you start to get a pain, and presumably at that point it's nothing major and you think, I can just deal with this.
Yeah, I thought maybe I've got a stomach bug or something, and I went to the doctors and he said it could be this, it could be a blood problem, it could be that, and didn't know what it was. Couldn't eat, couldn't hold anything down, so started to lose weight. And I thought, oh no, not
and then
that.
Yeah, and then this is the moment as well when you're in Mauritius and you're doing stuff and you're not performing your maximum in terms of day in, day out. And this production person, Ellie, comes up to you and she says, are you okay? But it's the kind of, are you okay? Looking deep into your eyes to say, come on, mate, I know something's wrong here.
Yeah, she did. She realised something. I was in it. If the truth must be told, I was in excruciating pain the minute I got on the plane.
But how interesting the timing of that, though. Any other point in your life that could have surfaced literally as something, it was then.
Yeah. I think it's. I read a book once, The Celestine Prophecy.
I know it.
Yeah, and I think it was, and I'm very philosophical, and I'm quite deep like that. I thought, well, it'll be fine, and what will be, and it will pass. But it never passed, and it just got worse. And I was diagnosed with a stomach ulcer, and
yeah. And then between getting back from Mauritius and getting that diagnosis and having it dealt with, at that point you back to square, probably -5 really in terms of where you were, and then when you went back in to go and see them again, you weren't in anywhere near the shape that you had been.
No, I mean I remember being in Mauritius and we had to run and had to do a sprint. And if you look at me, you can look back at that. I don't even know how I kept up. I was behind the guys, but I don't even know I was even with them because I was in so much. But I remember I'm in a squatting down, ready position for the sprint, thinking I'm going to fall over, let alone I'm not going to have to run with these chaps. But I just went for it and, ran, and that was it,
And it's very often, especially when you things like this, it's just fine margins. And actually, as you say as well, if it hadn't been for that, you would have got through. You would have, because it's then you rock up at the National Arena, and at that stage, it's still all going ahead, isn't it, in your head? And as far as everyone else is concerned, it's still green and still going. And one thing I wanted to ask as well is what do you think of the name Shark? Did it suit you, your character? Your personality?
I like the name. I liked it. I've got a big nose.
So
if I swim upside down, I could.
And to you, were you being pitched as being the next Wolf, or have a rivalry between the two of you?
Yeah, there was lots of discussions about how they need another character with regard to and it wasn't going to be contrived because there was no script as such. It was like you just be yourself, and I would say certain things to the production crew, and they'd say, "Yeah, that sounds good." And that'd be
like what?
Like I'm going to push Shark. I'm going to push Wolf over now and tell him he's just an old prairie dog.
Yeah.
And I'm the king of the sea, and now he's got to behave himself because I've arrived, and
all that stuff. Absolutely.
So that was maybe the plan,
Yeah. So then, at what stage did things start to unravel for you, or in terms of that dream, when did that start to unravel?
Just before we go there, did you have a costume made? Had you had a fitting?
No. What happened? So we got back from Mauritius. It was a very short period, and then we arrived at the National Indoor Arena.
You're half a stone lighter, or
I think a bit more than that. But I was. But I think something changed. I mean, if you look at those pictures of me with long hair and no beard, I do look like a completely different person. I mean, the whole image of me had changed. I don't know if that's what the producers wanted to have from how I look. I don't know now. I mean, it's just 20 years later. But if you have a look at those pictures with short hair and a beard, no beard, long hair, and it's a completely different character. So I'm not sure if the character wasn't right as well. Plus, I couldn't perform them, and I really feel bad that I let them down, because they did give me a lot of time and effort. So the costume wasn't made. No, what happened was I went out into the arena. I started practicing all the games, and then I was called into the office, and Kenny said to me, "What's up?" And I said, "Everything's fine." I should have said then something was wrong, which was wrong of me, really. I should have said, I'm not in best shape. I did say I think I've got something wrong with my blood, if I remember, because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was going on. And they said, "We're not going to continue with you." So I said, "Okay." So out the door I went.
Because you had been training up on the events, hadn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, what you knew about the show? Was there any that you were particularly looking forward to getting on?
Yeah, I think for me it would have been things like Powerball. I think. I grew up in the streets of London, so playing run-outs through the corridors of the school gyms that's run-outs to me. So bulldogs. So that I like the idea of that duel. I like the idea of the wall because I practice the wall a lot. You know, I spit on the run up to the games.
Everyone seems to have this real thing about the wall that everyone wanted to master the wall. Was it just because it was so different to most people's?
Well, you look at Hunter and he had it to a. I mean, he was designed for gladiators. I mean, I know he'd tell you he trained like it, but you have to have a gift, a physical talent and gift to perform like Hunter. I mean, all the gladiators, bless them, they were fantastic in their own right. But he was there, and he does put and I think he was. You've got to give credit where it's due. He was the master, wasn't he? You know?
I also think that the wall, for me personally, even though, yes, you had a contender that you needed to get, it was the one event which actually you could compete within yourself for. You know, even if you had just the wall, no contender, you knew you could be your own PB. You could beat it, you could get better at it, you could choose a different route, experiment, re-experiment, until you got that climb.
And how rude of me not to say, Jet, you were the master as well in the female version.
No,
well,
Kim and I were quick.
Yeah.
There's some of the other girls go, but only because I found a really good route. But by the time you were coming on the show, they were doing this whole thing about letting the contenders choose which side their gladiator would be on, that they were going to compete. And of course, I had the weak right-hand side, but I loved the left-hand side of the wall. And I never get strong on the right because I didn't take the time to. But it was one of those events you could actually self-improve within, if you know what I mean.
And were there some that you'd been training on that you thought, yeah, this is I'm doing quite... Did you think you're doing better than you thought? Because obviously this is all brand new for you, and you're coming in as the new boy, having to try and impress others as they're training up.
I don't think, you know, I remember... You know, talking to some of the other gladiators and them telling me you're going to have to train at this. This is not something you're just going to come in and do. So no matter what other training you've adjusted to try and perform in this arena, it's very personalised gladiators. So so I don't think I was really too worried. I realised that I was going to try all the games and obviously try and emulate at certain games, some better than others. I don't think it was about the game so much. I mean, if the crew wants you in there, there's loads of things they can do to keep you on the sidelines. I mean, you know, there's other games that are not as intense as others, perhaps. And you can come on a particular game and slow you down with another and find what your forte is. I mean, if you look at some of the games that are there, they're so chalk and cheese.
Yeah. Did you ever spend much time with Wolf? Did you start to get that rivalry going? Because he wasn't in Mauritius.
No, he wasn't in Mauritius. I think Wolf...
Why was that? Does he not like to fly?
I don't know. I arrived in the National Indoor Arena. It was quite bizarre for me because Wolf was over in the corner. Everyone was not in the corner as such, but he was over on his own. And everyone was... And I walked over and Wolf said to me, how you doing? And this, that and the other. And I said, fine. And he's a lovely guy. And I mean, he's the icon of... He's the mascot, isn't he, of Gladiators.
I wouldn't call him a mascot, though. He probably doesn't like that.
I like that term for him.
Well, he's the brand.
Yeah.
So he was the brand, and when I saw him, it was like, wow, you're the man, and to try and, you know, step up to the plate and be another Wolf. So, and I didn't say I'm coming as the. And I don't know if he heard that because he said to me, "So what are you doing here?"
Do you know what? As you're talking, and the more I'm listening to you, I think you are so like him. Your voice tonality, the pace that you speak at, you're very similar. So there was something going on there about you being this rival baddie.
I just wanted to be his friend.
You know, when he first walked into the arena, we were sat on the arena floor as the riggers were all beginning to bring some equipment in. You went, you know what, Jet? I can't do that. You probably do it better in your voice. He said, I don't want to be the baddie. I want to be the lover. And that is his spirit. That is his spirit. You're very similar spirit.
No, he was cool.
And then, as you say, you then have that chat with Ken, and he says, "Okay, that's it." And then, before you know it, you've probably seen all the publicity stuff. Oh, look, actually, you said that the press release went out with Shark on it, did it?
Yeah, there was, you know, there was loads of stuff. I did an interview with the Sun newspaper. Various newspapers and magazines did articles on me. So some of them were published, some of them weren't. I remember seeing some after. I was contacted quite a bit after from Gladiators, but yeah, it was kind of. It was kind of strange. It all kind of...
Because in theory, like something without doing interviews, and as you've said to me a few times as well, like I was a gladiator, and I saw you said that you felt that you let them down, but do you feel in a way that they maybe let you down? Because they kept you going for a year and a bit, you got in, you'd done everything you needed to do, and maybe, perhaps with hindsight, if you'd had that honesty, maybe Mauritius, and said, look, I've got this real issue, do you think they could have let you recover and then come back? I mean, do you think it's a two-way thing?
You know, I think winners take responsibility and losers blame others. And I can sit here trying to blame people till I'm blue in the face. Those guys have a real tough job. They've got to make it happen. They've got to make it happen big time with a big audience. It was a major show. They can't have any anomalies. And if I'd become the slightest anomaly, that was it. That was my chance. I feel privileged and humbled to have even got that far and spent time and experienced that emotion. And, everything's a chapter in life and it's a journey, life, not a destination. And that was just part of the journey. And, so.
But it just feels to me like they owed you. Like other gladiators were injured, who went away, came back. And I just felt I felt you had to jump. You've had to jump through so many hoops to get to where you had. To then, because Khan was the one that replaced you in essence.
Yeah, I don't know where he appeared from.
I mean, did you know he was around?
No, I just afternoon of the first day in the NIA National Indoor Arena, he turns up, and all of a sudden this is, who are you? And I thought, are you me with that long hair?
Yeah.
And I thought, we swapped roles or something.
Yeah.
It was kind of strange,
Had they spoken to you about theme music? Were you going to have the Jaws?
Yeah,
was it going to be the Jaws, or was it going to be?
No, it wasn't going to be. It wasn't going to be Jaws music.
That would have petrified the kids. Yeah.
Going to be that.
Brilliant.
They said, do you have a piece of music you like that we can play when you come out? So that was discussed. Yeah.
Do you know when I asked earlier about the timing of something like a stomach ulceration of coming into one's profile of health? Actually, if you were sustaining for over a year, certain nutritional or dietary measures certainly would have actually, in connecting with what you're saying, David, about, they owe you, having to maintain that. You may well have put your body into an alkaline acid imbalance by continuing with a fairly extreme diet to keep lean. Do you think?
That was my choice, and that was the price I wanted to be on.
I don't think he's not going to tell us, give us what.
No, I love your sense of ownership. It's fantastic.
Absolutely,
though. It's very inspiring.
The other thing as well is that you did various interviews at the time when it was like, this is the new Gladiator. But what about afterwards? Like, did anyone contact you after to say, hang on a minute, I did a story on you 3 weeks ago, suddenly you're not on? Like, did you decide not to? Did you get approached to share your story? Did you decide not to share your story?
I needed to sulk for a little bit.
Yeah,
I needed to get away and feel sad, and and go through the rigmarole. Because when it's a year and a half of your life preparing for something, and think you're going to do something and it not happen, is kind of oh dear. Well, it stops, bang. So I needed to, but after that, I did start to get some messages, and some people even knocked on the door and said, "Can we do an article? We recognise someone set up the road. You were the Gladiator sharp. Why didn't you do it? Can you tell us what happened? Did anything happen?" And loads of questions, and I just shied away from it. And I said, "No, it's not for me to share. It's not for me to explain. It's my private business. It's London Weekend Television's private. They were at the time their private business, and that's that. So, but they went on for a couple of years. Various times, phone calls or allegedly from this newspaper or this magazine, and we would really like to know your story. There was a man called Paul Noggins that was Noggins. It was
this is what I was going to say. Like, where does this come into it? Because is there something to do with your children? Had they seen something on social media, or?
I'm not really a social media person, and my son said to me, you need to do this Instagram thing. So I did the Instagram.
Is that the only one you're on? Like, not Facebook, not Twitter?
I'm on Facebook, but the Instagram. My eldest son said, "This is the thing. This is what you need to do." And I thought, I don't really want to do this, but I wasn't doing it for Gladiators. I did it for sort of Mystic Met for this.
Yeah.
Because I'm psychic clairvoyant medium. So I did that, and.
Did Cobra give you a nickname that was similar to Mystic Met?
No. Warren.
Ace
used to call me Mighty Met.
Okay.
And in the arena, he's a lovely man. He really is.
Sorry, I interrupted you there mid-flow. It just came to me about the nickname. So yeah, Mystic Met.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, when I created this Instagram account, it popped up Gladiators TV. I thought, strange. Why would it come up again? You know, I believe there are no coincidences, no accidents. All things happen to us as blessings to learn from. And it just, my son said, look, they still looking for you. I said, who's still looking for me? The Gladiators, they want to know your story. And I thought, well, Gladiators too. So I just sent a message, are you still interested in the story of Shark? And here I am today.
Yeah, he told me, Paul told me about it and said that he had this chat with you, and there were just so many questions to ask, because, you know, the thing about this podcast is that we want to hear all the stories, and there are lots of journeys, and everyone's journey is different, and, you know, we want to hear from, you know, contenders, you know, you want to be hearing from the people behind the scenes, the gladiators, but also, like, you were on that journey as well.
Yeah.
And it ended perhaps before it should have done.
Well, I think it was a personal test for me, because, you know, I mean, Hunter said to me, James Cosley, he said, they came to find me, you know, they chose me and they found me. And I said, yeah, because he is that perfect, and he trained for it, and but me, I had to work for it, and I had to push for it. So it was my personal journey and lesson that I believe Gladiators was for me, for that journey, for that duration.
And you know, you said that you had to sulk for a while. I think every gladiator, myself included, have said that there's a period of time when, for whatever reason the show finishes, you have to decompress, sulk or repair and heal. But I call it sort of grieving the dreams, especially in your case, because whenever something that we envision that is going to be possibly so positive in our lives, and it doesn't happen, that can be absolutely heartbreaking. But aren't they moments like that the biggest teachers, the biggest lessons?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. You learn in the lows, don't you, if they say in life?
absolutely.
So if we could press a button right now and go back to that initial conversations that you had with Mark and him putting you forward and everything that happened, would you do it all again? Would you do anything differently?
I'd do it all again, of course. It was wonderful. As I said, all the people were great, you know, all the Gladiators team. And the other thing was, you know, I love Mark Rhino Smith with all my heart. I really do love him. I've always loved him. And it was kind of, I could have been there with him.
Yeah,
on the journey, sort of doing the games, and you know, so it would have been because he's a few years younger than me, and he taught me lots about training. But I hope I may have taught him some things as well. So there would have been some synergy there. And some
have you been up to see him West Side, LA?
Yeah, well, you know, since he's gone, no, I haven't seen him. I've been so. I think part of it, the ethos of it all was, you know, he's doing great big things now, and he's doing things. And I did bump into him a couple of years back, and we had a bite to eat in an area that we used to hang around at, so that was nice. But he's doing different things now, so I wouldn't not do it again. I would do it differently. What I would have done is I would have taken care of myself with the conditioning, and I would have not been so sharp for 16 months. I would have just done my normal training. And then, and I would have talked more directly. I would have said to perhaps the producers, you know, can you give me any time on a dates? And I didn't, you know, I was very young and naive, so I can get myself ready and know, because I'm, you know.
Because I think that, and I think you mentioned or alluded to maybe perhaps being a bit more honest when it came to the stomach ulcer. I mean, would you perhaps I would have told them,
yeah. I would have stepped forward and said, look, but I didn't know what it was. I mean, doctors were telling me, I kept going to the GP, and I don't know what it is. I can't keep my food down, and I feel like I'm losing weight, and I don't know what's going on, and it hurts when
it's excruciating.
Yeah, it's awful. So you know, I would have got a proper diagnosis. You know, there's a thing with doctors, and doctors say no response is an affirmed result. So if you stay away from a doctor, they assume everything's okay. But, you know, we as people don't really go to the doctors unless we rock up on the door and we're actually very unwell. And by that time, we're usually unwell. We don't go for a pre-health check, do we?
And I think that the beauty of yourself as well is that you were a fan of the show.
Yeah. I love it.
So did you carry on watching it? And did you watch the revival on Sky?
I didn't really, because I had to. I had to really refocus. I had to say, well, this was my life then. What am I going to do now? I had to set myself some new goals and new achievements because, you know, I remember Kenny said to me, I looked him in the face. I mean, he was a lovely man. And I said, when he said, we're not going to continue with you. I said, well, when do you want to go? He said, now. You're going to leave now. And I said, well, what do I do? And he looked me in the face and he said, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you go again. And I took that man's words, and I did, you know.
Wonderful.
I mean, what have you done since?
Well, this is the area. I'm chomping at the bit about this.
So I put myself in a position of recovery. So I needed to get my tummy sorted out first of all. So I got that resolved quite quickly. Once I got the diagnosis that it was a stomach ulcer and the right nutrition and the right diet, as you said, acidic foods and so on and so forth, and medication that I had to go for a short period of time. And I set myself some goals, and I said I'm going to do what I always wanted to do since I was a little boy, and that's to learn to fly helicopters. So.
Whoa! Didn't see that one.
No, that was incredible.
So I became a helicopter pilot.
Like you do.
Yeah. What do you want to do? I want to be a helicopter pilot. There's more to it than that, but yeah, that is a great thing to get up and do and go.
But it gave me focus because I could have reverted into myself and started, and because when you're that close to achieving something that because I didn't know why I trained all my life. I mean, you look at some of the other athletes, they have an end goal, but I didn't have an end goal. And I thought, why have I trained all these years? And I thought I trained all those years for Gladiators. So it wasn't just that year and a half. It was from the age of 13 years old right up to that day. And then it stopped, you see.
So tell us more about what you then went on to do alongside helicopter piloting. I don't know if that's the right way of you talked about being psychic and coming through your family line. I mean, a lot of people listening will go, what? But desperately curious at the same time.
Yeah, my grandfather...
Psychic Gladiator. It should have just been called Psychic, and maybe it would have been all different. Yeah.
My grandfather was a medium. My mother's a medium as well, and I had quite a tough upbringing. There wasn't much money growing up as children, but my grandfather always taught me to have profound principles and believe in the concept of if you do the right thing happens. So I went back to that, and I was always reading for people throughout my life. I didn't realise I'd cold read for people.
What does that mean?
Okay, I'd walk into a shop and I'd say to a young... See, there's a psychic, a clairvoyant, and a medium, but I'm actually all three. But the main thing for me is predictions. I can predict. I've always had these things just come to me.
It's that prophecy.
Yeah, psychometry, working through predictions of holding an object, but it just comes through me, and I'd say to a lady in a shop, cold read, you have to be careful because if you go home, I think your boyfriend might bash you this weekend.
Whoa!
Things like this are very wrong to do, and I wouldn't ever do that
absolutely.
ever again. And I used to do that. So I went, I decided to fly aircraft. I decided to become a psychic, professional psychic medium, and work at delivering messages and giving people guidance and support with that. And I found that to be lovely. And I also worked pretty some property stuff that sort of paid the bills.
Yeah. I was going to say, let's get down to earth, back to concrete.
You have to,
You have to do
You have to have grounding, and you have to be airy-fairy. I think you've got to find the balance. You can't be one or the other.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting you said, though, because I'm a trained psychotherapist, and the training is more about the efficacy and the boundaries and the safety of being in and around and creating a safe space for somebody else's deeply private and personal world. And I know another psychic friend of mine who is very gifted too, but she said you spend years, even if you've got a natural gift, you must go through the right training. The responsibility is incredible. And again, like you said, you never just do cold reads and you just don't do it.
But when I decided that I would become a full-time medium, one of the things I needed to go back and learn about the 52 Fraudulent Media Act and how to the law on it, how to deliver professional mediumship.
When you were nearly gladiating, did you pick up on anything of the other glads?
I did.
Great question.
Do you know the funny thing, though? I knew that the minute I got on that plane to Mauritius, I knew it was going to be short-lived for me. And I didn't know how or why, but I didn't. You know, when the brain tells yourself, this is not true, it's not going to be, the head's getting involved with the heart.
Yeah.
but I knew it wasn't going to be. But something did say to me, because it's funny, as I said, my mum's a medium, and I remember driving back from the Hyatt Hotel in Birmingham, and I phoned, and I'm not a mummy's boy, I've never been a mummy's boy. My mum spent most of her life in hospital, and most of her life, she's okay now, but she's in her 80s. But I remember calling her, and I said, Mum, I'm not doing it. And she said, you're not doing what? I said, they've let me go. And she said very calmly on the phone, she said, you haven't done this for nothing. She said, if it takes 20 to 30 years, you've done it for a reason, and something will come good of it.
Well, you're on this podcast to start.
There you are.
Now, obviously, you were a big fan of Gladiators. You obviously saw what the original series was like. You know, you want to be a part of it. Do you think that with the 30th anniversary coming up, that it should be returned? Do you think it should return in the format that you were going to invest in, or do you think it needs to evolve to 2020?
I think there are probably some issues with health and safety, because lots of people got hurt. I remember I remember visiting Rhino, driving all the way to Birmingham. He was in hospital. He snapped his hamstring, and I thought, wow,
ridiculous.
And you, Jet, so you hurt yourself, hurt your neck, didn't you?
Nearly broke my neck.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there was. So I think it's the most fabulous show, because it entertains not only the little kiddies, but it entertains intermediates, older people. Everyone can sit and watch it. It's a real fun time family show. And I think some of the gladiators, like the legends, for instance, perhaps yourself, Jet and Wolf, can set the precedent with creating the ethos of it. So I think there is something that should be created with it, because it's fun, and there isn't that anymore. Where is that? Where can the whole family, from a 5-year-old child up to your grandmother, be sitting there, and the whole family on a Saturday evening watching something that they're all going to get something from?
Do you think it was also the journey of the contender that people got behind, because you started to follow the journey? I know a lot of journos don't like that word, but you start to get behind someone's actual process and progress, because you get to know a bit. Because even with our contenders, we got to know a little bit about where they're from and what they do in their family and their kids. And then I think that really, for me, okay, the gladiators were the gladiators and people got their favourites. But for me, as a gladiator, I just was so impressed with how the show was brought together to follow the progress of each contender as they got to the semis, the quarters and the semis, and then our finalists. By then, they've got 3 kids and they're from there and they've had this problem in their life.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You're absolutely right. It's the knock-on effect of how inspirational and how motivating it is for everybody, not just the contenders, of following the patterns of them, how people can associate with that, and how people can actually look at themselves and say, well, I can do that if this person. So it's lots of stuff on TV today is quite negative, I think, and that was something that I didn't find any, apart from the tragic accidents that happened. I think it was all positive, wasn't it? What can you say negative about Gladiators? I don't think there is any, really.
Just the injuries, literally, as you said. That was more obviously something that we all kept to ourselves at the time, unless it was very visible. And there were the moments of car crash TV where they wanted to see somebody crashing down the pyramid and not walking away from it, because it was like, what's happened there, drama. But I think LWT handled it very well. I know health and safety each year were kind of probably sat sort of being very, very uncomfortable a lot of the time, because they too were having to find their way around, bringing to heel a massive vehicle with lots of potential serious injuries. I don't know if any other TV show could ever do that again.
No, but if they can master that bit, like you say, Jet, everything else brings a positive through the knock-on pebble in the pond effect, and from there on.
The Sky version, the version 2, they did it by making people do the large, long falls into water. So instead of breaking a bone or your neck, you drown instead.
Yeah, but it's not only that. The first 2 foot of water is water. After that, it's concrete, isn't it? So you can even damage yourself with water. True. I think they realised that at the end. Mystic
Bet, the untold story of Shark Gladiator. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I think it's a story of hope, and, as you say, dusting yourself back off and taking it and move. Yeah, and coming on and sharing your story. And I think people will be fascinated to hear I think people love this kind of thing, and definitely there was a Shark Gladiator. I think
there was.
There was. A pleasure to have you here.
For having me.
So there we have it, the gladiator that never was, but probably got as close as you could get to becoming a gladiator. Shark. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you know what? When we started on this journey, you don't for me, you want to hear from all the gladiators. Yes, of course you do. But what I've enjoyed and what we've both kind of signed up to is hearing all of the other stories of other people involved, not only in the show, but also those who got so close to the show as well. I mean, he was destined for stardom.
He was, and he's a star in his own absolute right anyway, as you could hear from the interview, with all these really interesting things he's been doing with his life. And but how awful to get so near yet so far. But he did get a holiday to Mauritius out of it, which I think's no mean feat. I think that's absolutely brilliant. But I was really fascinated about how he does a bit of psychic work. I know as a therapist, I kind of, when you work with people psychotherapeutically, you have an instinct and you can pick up on things, and sometimes you get a bit of an intuition, and then the next thing the person's saying exactly what you thought just a second ago. And I get tiny little moments like that, but I'm really interested in the whole spooky stuff of the ESP and electromagnetic fields and all these things. But I was my father was an astronomer, so I've had science talk around me about these things that isn't just hocus pocus, it's actual physics. We know quite a bit about the human body and the electrical processes, the neurotransmitters in the brain that transfer information around the whole of the human body. I think that's fascinating. If you find that you have a gift, or you're wired that way to tune into it, it was just unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been fascinated with that kind of stuff as well, but I also don't say, for me, I don't really have the background, the knowledge, the expertise to question him on it, really. And I felt like I perhaps I felt comfortable just taking a bit more of a back seat with that chat. But you leant forward. You wanted to find out more.
Oh, I wanted to find out so much more, because I've met many people over the years who have all sorts of really weird and wonderful intuitions and gifts. Whether you've got to be very careful about how it helps somebody, because sometimes it'll be about your projection and not really maybe what the person who's needing support or confidentiality. We just don't know about the boundaries too much with some of this that area of work. In psychotherapy, we were really strict with a lot of that. But I found it wonderful how he wanted to share that with us, because a lot of guys, grown men, been seen to kind of know what stones tell them, or their intuition from animals and people, and you'd be like, oh yeah, right. So hats off to him. And how awful as well that he literally became so poorly that he had to step away from what eventually would have been his Gladiator moniker of Shark and one of our team. But obviously life very much had a different plan, and has a different plan for him.
Yeah, and the story, the thread that I thought was fascinating with his is him having to grow his hair. So the producers saw his shape and maybe made a couple of tweaks to his shape, but he had to keep going back to show that his hair was growing.
I know.
Are these the kind of fine margins that the producers are looking for? They have something in mind and they want you to deliver.
It's very true. I mean, I think these days people can get all sorts of things attached to their head and hair to make it long one day and short the next and super long the day after again. But in those days, it really was, you had to let your hair grow. You had to do a lot of different things. And I think also, someone like Kenny Warwick, who I adored, absolutely adored, and still do, but he did enjoy kind of making people work for their part. Are you coming on? Are you getting a bit bigger? Have you got more full bulk or something? Have you got more muscle on you yet? Because when I first sent in a show reel in the days when they were very new things, their first feedback was, could I get bigger? And I thought, I don't want to be bigger. I'm not a terribly big person. I wasn't a bodybuilder, so I didn't have the huge big kind of muscle. I was more fitness and dance background, but the gymnastics, so I didn't feel comfortable about being asked to suddenly become bigger. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll just diet down a little bit more and make what muscle I have got look that much more effective, which we can do. We know much more about these things these days. But yeah, they were very keen on making sure everybody had a specific look for their Gladiator moniker. And it sounds just growing my hair again, poor guy. But then I did feel very sorry for him with the
stomach ulcer.
Terrible.
I mean, he knew something was up as well.
Yeah,
and he just couldn't. he was kind of saying that he just felt like he couldn't say anything because it was going to ruin his chances.
Well, you can't ingest a lot of excellent nutrition and food if you're particularly wanting to keep big. The boys always liked to feel that they were big. If you've got a stomach ulcer present, I'm not a medic, so I don't know the facts, but it's going to be painful to eat anything, let alone what we call a high protein, which is usually quite acid forming rather in the stomach. So it would have been just painful for him to eat and start looking at the sort of quality of size and the look that they'd have been after at the time. It makes complete sense now. I think he can reflect back and be quite candid about it, but at the time it must have been awful for him.
Yeah, and I mean, I know maybe I did push him perhaps a little bit hard to try and lay blame or even perhaps criticise the fact that he'd jumped through so many hoops, and then when perhaps Gladiators needed him, he didn't kind of get the support that he perhaps would have necessarily wanted. The one thing I did note down, it was a quote from him, was "Winners take responsibility and losers blame others. I can see it trying to blame people until I'm blue in the face, but those guys have a real tough job. That was my chance. I feel privileged and humbled to have even got that far. Everything's a chapter in life."
I just love his philosophy. I really, I was looking forward to meeting him because I hadn't before, or very briefly, and getting to know more about his mind, and I wasn't let down. I just love somebody whose philosophy and outlook on life really has kind of come from hard work, and those learnings, as we say, that usually aren't the easiest. Sometimes they're the ones that really shape us.
And I think with this journey of discovery that we're going on, I don't think there's going to be too many others who got as far as Shark did in becoming a gladiator and essentially being at that door and knocking on it. There probably aren't going to be too many more of those, but it does feel like a box ticked in terms of if you're looking to learn more about the show and what was needed to be a gladiator. You know, we're hearing from people that did that journey and got the green light to go on the show. In this case, it didn't quite happen, and I think that was for me very much part of what I wanted to try and get on this journey as well.
Very poignant. And if you listening have any gladiatorial or contender stories, or you know somebody who got all the way down to the mark, literally, and then for some reason they didn't make it through for the last bit of filming, injury, pregnancy, all of these lovely things that can happen in life when we least expect or plan, then do let us know here at the GladPod.
Yeah, so it's email thegladpod@gmail.com
and at the GladPod on Twitter and Facebook and Insta.
And as always, we'll be back next week, but just for now, for another week, we'll leave you with these wise words from John Sachs.
Good competition, good spirit, great sportsmanship as both contenders show mutual respect. Join us again next week for the ultimate challenge, the might of